Hello, this is Mike Swanson of Wall Street Window, and you're listening to the Inside Wall Street Window podcast. Today is December the 26th, 2025, the day after Christmas. So, why a podcast? Well, this gives me a way to talk directly to the people who most follow what I do on my newsletter and YouTube. It goes out to YouTube. But the problem with YouTube is that it's very much algorithmically driven. What is shown to people, pushed out to people, and whether or not YouTube will promote a channel. So if you put out things that, the majority of people aren't interested in or isn't in sync with the current meme of the moment, people don't click to listen, or they stop, they go to another video, and YouTube sees that and punishes your channel. So I do these just very rarely, and I do them in audio format only because YouTube treats that differently than it does the videos. So it kind of gives me a way to segment this away without damaging the YouTube channel. And what I want to talk about today is some of the things I'm thinking about in 2026 that I might do, and with the stuff I'm putting out on the internet and with my own investments. For me, this has been a tremendously successful year when it comes to investing. It's kind of a paradox, though, because it's a year in which people I know in real life have had absolutely zero interest in what I'm investing in and doing. So I'm up more than I've ever made before in a single year. As I'm speaking to you, all my accounts together are up over 60%. And well, I may have had a year, I did have a year as big as that when I started out with a smaller amount of money. But in a big year once in the hedge fund, I co-managed for 3 years, but that never went up 60% in a single year. I made a big return in 2008, but this is the most amount of money I made in a single year, and it's very rare you're going to get a 60% return year. And much of it is driven by gold and silver going up. And I didn't make very many new trades this year. I bought interest in palladium and platinum and a couple mining stocks in them. In May, talked about in the newsletter, I bought a position in an emerging markets ETF, and I'm going to talk about those in YouTube videos before the end of the year. But one of the things I'm going to be on guard for next year is looking for the possibility, and I say possibility, I'm not predicting it, of a new bear market in the U.S. stock market. And if I think that's coming, and I'll talk about the warning signs of that soon in more content, I'm going to take hedges because I think it's going to happen either next year or the year after. I mean, it's looming, just as in 2006, there was a real estate bubble that was going to collapse. Just as in 1999, there was an internet stock bubble that eventually was going to collapse. We have a stock market that's highly valued, and the United States is piling on more and more debt. I just looked, and the official Congressional Budget Office is projecting $1.7 trillion deficit next year, but there's private forecasts, for example, from JP Morgan, that's projecting one much greater than that. And if that happens, it's going to shock people. They're talking about over $2 trillion, but it's growing. That's a 6% increase if it happens. So it's just a matter of time. I read Ray Dalio's book about the debt crisis he put out in the spring, And he was basically projecting 5 years out from now in that book. But a recession or a geopolitical shock of some sorts, a new war of some sorts, would make that happen much sooner. And the news headlines are that the Prime Minister of Israel is coming to the United States to speak with Trump before the end of the year to try to get him to join him in a new war against Iran. And so hopefully that doesn't happen, but I don't know what's going to happen. That would send oil prices up higher. That would send commodities up higher. And I think those are things, commodities as a whole I've talked about, I think is something to invest in regardless of any geopolitical situation, because they look like they're going to go up. And we have underlying trends that are likely just to continue. Again, the debt situation, declining U.S. dollar, and that's why one reason I'm so heavily invested in gold and silver. And I think that's going to, continue. So some of the things I want to do next year, I'm planning on putting out some video courses about how to invest, diversify, and manage your account, a rebalancing money management system. I know that's not popular, people. I know what people want. That's predictions and picks. But I think I'm going to put this out sort of as a legacy thing. And I do get questions sometimes from people I know a few times a year where someone will actually ask me how to invest. They come into some money and so forth. So a couple of videos like that would help them out. And I'm thinking, something I can refer people to for a very long time. And it's taken me, frankly, over 25 years to do, to really make this pay off in a way, to do it where I'm not trying to gamble. I'm not trying to get rich quick. When I say 25 years, I mean, I stopped doing this several years ago, doing that. And I'm making more money, and I don't have any real stress at all in doing this. The complete opposite of someone trying to make it fast. Someone listening to the Bitcoin gurus, buying these coins, thinking that's going to get them rich and putting all their money into it, which is what the gurus tell them. It's a total disgrace, but they don't stop doing it because they don't care. And the algorithms push that out because it's what people want to hear. So I don't know, I'm going to put these together. I'm putting a lot of time into it. That's what I plan on doing and maybe put it out in the spring. But I don't know if how many people are even going to listen to it or watch it, or YouTube will even push it out. And I've got so many things I do want to talk about that I don't think YouTube will, and have a good chance of punishing the channel. I've come to the conclusion, or I believe, that the way a YouTube channel works, you can only talk about so many topics at once successfully, or the algorithm gets confused about who the audience is for it and then just doesn't push it out. So I've got a lot of interest in history, all types of topics. I've written 3 history books. So I'm have a YouTube channel. I don't use it, that I'm going to start to use for those topics. It's the War State. You can find that on YouTube if you type that in. If you type that in Google, you'll go to a Substack newsletter that you can subscribe to, and you'll get emails about when the videos are out. And I might just create transcripts of the videos and send them out on that Substack too. But, I think there's a huge relationship to historic trends that I think are the underlying factors of what's driving and going to drive the financial markets for the next couple of years, our country, our lives. But, that's the big picture, and everything in the media focuses on the weeds, the news cycle. But it's the debt situation, the United States having become the global superpower after World War II, the end of the Cold War, And the legacy of that is in reaching a phase of that legacy, which is coming to an end. Then in the Cold War, the United States was the sole superpower. It was able to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's done what all empires in history has done, overextended itself, overreach in those wars, and the debt situation. They come together, and it creates a crisis of change, and that's really what is going on globally in the United States. And few people understand it. Most Americans don't want to hear about it. They are trapped in the news cycle, or they've tuned out. The majority of people have simply tuned out. But there's an obsession with Donald Trump and what he says and does, and people who worship him and the people who hate him, and that's the narrative. And the underlying factors are not part of that. And when you bring them up, they're simply denied, ignored, tuned out by most people. So I'm not expecting the things I talk about to be popular, and they may, so that's why I don't want to put it on the Wall Street Window channel, because it'll ruin it, or has the potential. I'm going to put it on this War State channel I've got, and I got a lot. I'm doing more work into historical topics I'm highly interested in, the Kennedy presidency, and I plan on putting out content to that, because there is a community of people out there interested in that, and I know a lot of them personally, researchers and so forth. So there's lots of things I've dug up and discovered I want to share with them. So I'm going to put that on that YouTube channel too. So maybe you're interested in that. That's where you want to go. And I'll be doing that educational course. I'm going to start putting that together right after New Year's. And I'm going to use a smaller account. I'm not going to talk about the 60% return, because I think that's not realistic to expect to make every year. And I don't want to get people thinking that way. I got a smaller account that I just really opened up earlier this year that made 30%, over 30%. And so I'm going to use that as the model for what I'm going to teach people, and try to put things together, because that's what's going to be necessary to thrive in the next couple of years, is to be well diversified and have a real money management strategy, because a lot of people are going to get hurt when this thing does start, the stock market does peak out. Again, I'm not saying the peak is right now. I'm not seeing signs of that, but I do think one day it will happen. And if you're not prepared for that, and you just think, oh, it just goes up forever, and that's how a lot of people do think, because they've got into the markets after 2008. I've been doing this a long time. Most investors have gotten in, after 2010, really, and they've in their experience, every time the stock market has gone down, it goes back up. 2020 it recovered very quickly, and so they're not afraid. But look at what happened in the 1970s with the erosion of the value of people's stocks in regards to inflation. Look at what happened in 2000. Companies like Cisco didn't go up to new highs for almost 10 years. And now we got NVIDIA that people worship, like people worship Cisco back then, or I should say everyone owned it. So we're in for some interesting times, and I just want to share with you what I'm thinking about. I plan on doing and talking about in 2006. Hope you had a good Christmas and have a happy New Year's, and let's navigate these markets and events together next year.